Imagine standing on a windswept plain, the air thick with the scent of earth and wild grasses, where the ground trembles under the weight of creatures so massive they seem to belong to another world. This is the late Pleistocene, a time when our ancestors, small, cunning, and fiercely determined, shared the earth with megafauna, giants like the towering mammoth, the saber-toothed cat, and the ground sloth, each a living fortress of muscle and instinct. But this isn't a tale of humans merely surviving in the shadow of these beasts. No, this is the story of the day the megafauna fought back, when our ancestors' ingenuity was tested in encounters so raw and pivotal. They echo in the bones of the earth itself. What did it feel like to face a creature that could crush you with a single step? How did our ancestors turn the tide against such odds? Let's step into their world. Some 20,000 years ago, in what is now the grasslands of North America, archaeological sites like the Manis Mastodon in Washington state reveal clues to these dramatic moments. Here, a sharpened bone point, crafted with meticulous care, was found embedded in a mastodon's rib. Picture the scene: a band of hunters, their faces painted with ochre, their hands gripping spears tipped with tools they'd spent hours perfecting. These weren't reckless thrill-seekers, but strategists, people who studied the land and the beasts they pursued. They knew the mastodon's habits, how it lumbered toward water at dawn, how its massive tusks could sweep a man into the air. Yet, the evidence tells us they didn't just strike and flee. The bone point's angle suggests a calculated thrust, likely aimed at a vulnerable spot near the lungs. This was no accident. This was a plan. But the megafauna weren't passive prey. Consider the Clovis people, whose finely fluted spear points litter sites across the Americas. At places like the Colby Mammoth site in Wyoming, archaeologists uncovered mammoth bones with multiple weapon marks, some showing signs of healing. Imagine that: a mammoth, wounded by human hands, not just surviving but charging back, its trunk thrashing, its feet shaking the earth. These creatures were intelligent, social, and fiercely protective. Ethnographic studies of modern elephants suggest mammoths likely guarded their young with the same ferocity, forming circles around calves when threatened. Our ancestors faced not just a single beast but a wall of tusk and fury. How did they persist? They adapted. They learned to exploit the landscape, driving megafauna into bogs or narrow ravines where size became a liability. Sites like Blackwater, Draw in New Mexico show kills in such strategic locations where humans turned the terrain into an ally. What drove them to face such danger? Hunger, yes, but also something deeper. The megafauna weren't just food. They were a lifeline. A single mammoth could feed a band for weeks. Its hide could shelter them. Its bones could be carved into tools, or even art. At the Yana rhinoceros horn site in Siberia, archaeologists found rhino bones alongside intricate carvings, suggesting these hunts were woven into the spiritual fabric of their lives. Did they honor the beasts they felled, as some modern hunter-gatherer societies do? Perhaps they whispered thanks to the spirit of the mammoth, knowing its death ensured their survival. This wasn't slaughter for sport, but a dance of necessity, respect, and risk. Yet, the megafauna's resistance shaped humanity as much as the hunts did. Every failed ambush, every charge that scattered a hunting party, forced our ancestors to rethink, to innovate. The atlatl, a spear-throwing tool found at sites like the Wa site in Montana, multiplied the force of their throws, letting them strike from safer distances. These weren't just tools, they were ideas born from necessity, proof of a mind that could outwit a titan. But the cost was high. Broken bones and crushed skulls found at sites like the Murray Springs in Arizona hint at hunts gone wrong. Moments when the megafauna's raw power prevailed. The scars of those clashes linger in the earth, whispering of a time when survival hung on the edge of a spear. Picture a hunter, heart pounding, as a woolly rhinoceros, its horn a battering ram, pivots and charges. The ground shakes, dust clouds rise, and in that moment, every lesson learned, every tool crafted, is tested. These weren't just battles for food. They were crucibles that forged human resilience. At sites like the Long of Ferguson in South Dakota, mammoth bones bear the marks of repeated strikes, some from weapons that shattered on impact. The hunters didn't just face the beast, they faced their own limits and found ways to push beyond them. How did they muster the courage to try again after a failed hunt? What drove them to stare down a creature that could obliterate them? The answer lies in their communities, bound by more than survival. Archaeological finds, like the intricate bone needles at the Kostenki site in Russia, show they sewed tailored clothing from megafauna hides, protecting themselves against the biting cold. These weren't lone warriors but families, elders passing down knowledge, children learning the rhythm of the hunt. Ethnographic parallels with groups like the Inuit suggest storytelling was central. Tales of past hunts, weaving courage into the next generation. Imagine a firelit night, the air heavy with the scent of roasting meat, as a storyteller recounts how their kin outsmarted a giant sloth, its claws like scythes, by luring it onto unstable ground. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were survival manuals etched in memory. But the megafauna's resistance wasn't just physical. Their intelligence forced humans to think like never before. At the Galt site in Texas, Clovis artifacts include tools for processing plants alongside hunting weapons, hinting at a diet. When a hunt failed or a herd vanished, our ancestors didn't starve. They adapted, gathering seeds, fishing, or trapping smaller game. This flexibility was their edge. The megafauna, for all their might, were tethered to specific habitats, their massive bodies demanding vast resources. Humans, smaller and nimbler, could pivot. Sites like Monte Verde in Chile, with evidence of seaweed and medicinal plants, show a people who read the land like a book, finding sustenance where others saw barrenness. Did they feel awe at their own ingenuity, or was it just another day in a world that demanded everything? Yet, the megafauna's fight left a deeper mark. Their decline, accelerated by human hunting and climate shifts, reshaped the world. Pollen records from cores in the Great Lakes region show landscapes changing as megafauna vanished. Forests replacing grasslands. Our ancestors didn't just hunt, they altered ecosystems, perhaps unknowingly. Did they notice the herds thinning, the plains growing quieter? At the Linner Mammoth Kill site in Arizona, multiple kills over time suggest relentless pressure on mammoth populations. But the same sites show reverend stools placed carefully, bones arranged in patterns. This duality, destruction and respect, defined their relationship with the giants. The legacy of those encounters isn't just in the bones or tools, but in us. The megafauna's resistance honed our ancestors' minds, teaching them to plan, to innovate, to endure. Every atlatl thrown, every trap set, was a step toward the societies we know today. The courage to face a charging mammoth lives in the audacity to build cities, to reach for the stars. But there's a shadow in that legacy. The megafauna's fall reminds us of our power to shape the world and our responsibility to wield it wisely. As we stand in their world, feeling the tremor of their steps, we're left to wonder, what giants do we face today, and how will our choices echo in the bones of the future?